Steve Irwin has you pinned down in a headlock. What cool facts does he tell the audience about you and your habitat? Oh, look at this fella, he's of the hairless variety. Rare and silky smooth to the touch, he actually likes when you rub his head. Look at his leg glowing. I don't care, he calls me a beaut and I really needed to hear it. Oh, now looky here. Notice how he seems almost entirely apathetic to my attack. That's because he spends almost every waking moment pretending not to be bothered by the current situation he is in, despite the fact that he is incredibly irritated. To him, this is just another Monday morning staff meeting. He is truly a gorgeous example of mental endurance. Isn't he a beauty? You're alright, fella. You're alright. This guy is out looking for a Sheila but he isn't having much luck. He's coming in late to the party. This little fella looks upset, but he actually craves physical contact. Wow. Get a load of this Sheila. I can imagine this one spending all of her free time sleeping in her lil hidey hole, only coming out 5 times a week to spend hours at a place where she probably regrets being at in the first place, and she'll do this most weeks of her life all the way up until she dies. This one's pretty big for a female too, bigger than most average males actually. Don't think that gives her any luck during the mating season. Lav's an Australian. Oh, be very careful mates. We have to show dominance. If we show any affection towards this creature he'll get attached to us and never leave us alone. Truly one of the most terrifying beasts in North America. Crikey. This lil wrangle is quite the sneaky little one. This particular type of animal can hide in a dark room all day and never even see the sunshine. She will do as much as she can to avoid others of her kind. This little bugger simulates reproduction up to 5 times a day. Almost exclusively without a mate. Then I imagine he would shove a Dorito in my mouth and chuck me back into my bedroom. Steve, in a barely audible whisper as he gets low to the ground. The Usqueanus is an endangered fella, meaning there aren't many of them left, and he most likely won't find a mate. Now if you watch air, he's trying to attract a Sheila. 5 minutes of silence as Squeanus stares at his screen, before typing sup to the OnlyFans girl he's subbed to. Followed by more dead silence. Better luck next time, little fella. If you see one of these in the wild, it's crucial you give them the space they need, as many of them can be highly poisonous. Oh, this air is a common member of his species, and as you can see he's got a fairly advanced case of fur loss, especially concentrated air at the top of his head. Many males you find in the wild with this condition will try to compensate by growing the fur around their faces, and this fella is no different. This one looks like he spends his days being poked and nipped at by his wee ones. Note the characteristic paunchy belly and the general lack of muscle tone. This fella can spend up to 12 hours a day grazing, and trying to find a nice spot to curl up for some shut-eye. He's angry. Calm down big fella, ain't gon' hurt ya. Yeah, there we go. See he likes when I give his noggin scritches like this. Yeah, these guys like to get all big and blustery, especially in front of a keyboard. They'll be real mean to each other, but they're good folk though. Just gotta let them know ya care about 'em. Everyone acting like Steve ever said something bad about the animals. That's not a thing. Now I know what you're thinking, this here fella looks like an absolute killer. He's big, he's covered in hair, and if he wanted to, he could probably knock Mad Headlock off with one swing. The truth is, his kind look far more scary than they really are. Despite their size, they're actually quite timid, and will only attack when threatened and backed into a corner. Truth is, he just wants to find a Sheila he can settle down with and, who knows, maybe have a couple of kids. Sadly, this fella hasn't had much luck lately. He's the last of his line, and it would be crying shame if he never got a family of his own. Puts PS2 controller in my hands. Luckily, here at Australia Zoo, we have a state-of-the-art gaming room, where this fella can play the video games of his youth, and relive his days as a juvenile, when life seemed so full of possibilities. Edit, typed this just before I went to bed thinking I was far too late to the party to get noticed. Thanks for all the upvotes and awards. I hope this made you laugh and I'm sorry if it makes you sad. If it did, please be kind to yourself, life has a way of untangling itself. Steve would want you to care for yourself just as much as he'd want you to care for nature. This one right here can put up a fight if you put a bowl of Cheetos within the area. Good thing is that this bloke is actually calm because he ate a full bowl of Cheetos. Awesome question. This unusually large example of his species is known to consume enormous quantities of cheese in one sitting. He is a very stealthy creature, with the ability to sit in one spot at a computer for up to 8 hours at a time. Edit. This number has been drastically reduced size the introduction of a mate and offspring into the nest. Crikey. This animal lives in a dilapidated bachelor pad and is capable of eating his weight in pudding over a weekend. Edit. Thanks for the gold and the little angel thingy. Fascinating. This creature's diet consists of almost all caffeinated beverages. And would you give a whiff of the stench coming from his bathroom? It seems this little creature eats so little fiber that its shits come out as an earthy, putrid gaseous substance. This big guy is quite greasy due to his natural habitat of an engine bay. I believe he is extremely angry due to the loss of all his 10mm sockets. He's getting quite angry when he's getting poked with a stick. Pokes me with a stick. Dude, fuck off. See, this is why you take physical exercise seriously, kids. If you act like him and sit in front of a computer all day, it's really easy to pull a sneaky one, and yeah. Oh, this fine specimen was a hard one to catch. Now, let's look at her. As you can see, changes make her stressed and anxious, thus more aggressive. If provoked, she'll attack on sight. She has the appetite of a great white. She's an omnivore, but eats meat more willingly. One off thing about her diet is that she loves broccolis. She eats anything that's prepared with them. This lad drinks too much. We have an indigenous person to the Americas out of his reconstructed habitat. They were contained to a small portion of land only for this bugger to free himself from such limited space and find himself tangled in debt. I'm sitting in my chair looking at Reddit on my laptop. I've had a few beers, smoked a bowl, and I'm relaxing. Steve jumps out from behind the chair, tackles me and gets me in a headlock. Steve, easy, fella, easy, there mate. Me, what the fuck dude? Steve, looking at camera that isn't there and struggling, or, look at him, he's nervous, but that's alright, you're alright, fella. Steve, this here is a common specimen, you can tell by his surroundings that he's given up on life and is just passing time until his eventual death. Me, no longer struggling, because who cares? Steve, notice how he has given up struggling. Listen to hear that. Steve puts his ear to my mouth dramatically, that is the wheezing of a man who hasn't done any activity in ages. Notice his surroundings, empty beer cans, crumbs on the chair, a bottle of lotion and crumpled up tissues. I think I have found his nest. My wife walks out of the bedroom to see Steve on top of me in the living room. Steve, AWW, look at that. There's his mate. This is a middle-aged housewife who looks to be giving up a bit herself. Notice the frown lines in her faded nightgown. Wife, fuck you, asshole. Steve, AWW, you're alright. Steve turns his attention back to the camera that isn't there. Steve, now each of these specimens is a little different, but judging by the items in his nest and his mate, we can tell that he hasn't had his yearly loveless sex in quite a while, and is probably suffering from mild undiagnosed depression. Wife, I'm calling the cops. Steve, oh crikey. I seem to have upset his mate, so I should probably release him into the wild before I get into too much trouble out here in the bush. Wife, yeah. It's some Australian guy in cargo shorts and he's beating up my husband. Steve, you're alright, ain't ya? Wife, yeah, he's talking to a wall like there's someone there. No, I don't know. Yes, thank you, please hurry. Steve picks me up and guides me back to my chair. Steve, I know I have seen these specimens many times in my career, but they always amaze me. Look how he sits there beautifully while he searches the internet for increasingly disturbing porn. Can't blame him. He's just trying to feel something, anything really. I'm always in awe how resilient these specimens are. My wife sobs in the corner holding her phone as I just stare at Steve. Irwin. Steve, what? A beauty. Steve leaves the house, backing away slowly. Wife and I are just left wondering what the fuck happened. This creature is an easy one to spot, always in the same spot on the sofa, most commonly seen with either Reddit or Animal Crossing. Because of the general mess of the surroundings, you might be surprised to know that this little fella here actually built or repaired almost all this surprisingly nice furniture in this place. This species is tasteful, yet disorganized. She's a little shy, but we got her. Feed her some sugary breads and she'll calm right down even with a temper. Now her primary predator is a spider. Once they see her they go right for her. In response she will aggressively scream at it until another of her species comes by to kill it. This one has been known to scream for at least 5 minutes straight even in the middle of the night. As you may have noticed, I caught this one on her own. That's because she screams at spiders while her neighbors and roommates are asleep. I don't have an answer to this, but congrats. This is probably the best question ever asked on Reddit. This bloke is in a completely relaxed state. Not a care in the world. Aw crike. The female is home and he forget to pick up the groceries. Easin' for it now. Steve and the camera crew quickly scamper to a corner, in a legs out arms out wide stance. Steve, looks like these two are about to have a bit of a tumble. Might wanna give them some space. Mrs. U30 Helen's agrees begins hissing madly, teeth bared as she claws at his face. Mr. Thirsty Helen bounce hobbles a few meters away, head low. No, look at the size of that Sheila. If Yassi are in the wild, it's best to give the girl plenty of space, as she can rip Yat to shreds. Mr. 30 Helen rolls onto his back, submissively. Yassi, it's there that the female primarily brings the food back to her dependent cubs and mate. Wit claws like that, ya really don't wanna get on the wrong side of her, that's for sure. I'm really upset that most of these comments boil down to I'm a fat, lazy incel that just sits at my computer all day. Steve would love each and every one of you and he'd have lots of interesting stuff to say about you. Even if you are a fat, lazy incel. Oh have a look at this beaut. This magnificent specimen spends way too much time watching The Office.